Along with jumping comes landing. And when you're landing on an obstacle, you want to make sure that you have different options to keep yourself safe. Within those options is what we call the landing continuum. Within that landing continuum, as long as I'm getting my feet on the obstacle on the wall, there's 4 or 5 different options, different fail-safes that I can fall back on to keep me safe. First and foremost, there's the precision landing. With that precision, we're landing on the edge with our feet together. We always want to make sure our feet are together when we're landing on something. Landing with our feet together is going to protect our ankles, our knees, and our hoo-has. Feet together means we have to spot one landing as opposed to 2. If our feet are apart, we risk splitting the obstacle. We risk one foot landing before the other, which can cause an ankle compression. One foot landing before the other can cause slipping out. Again, making sure that we're practicing keeping those feet together, pushing those toes together so that when we land, we're nice and safe. Anything you can do to practice that landing position, whether that's feet together bouncing, feet together when you're squatting, going into that landing position, maintaining those feet together. The more you do it, the more you train your brain and your muscles, that neuromuscular education of that position. It's easier for your feet to find that position and stay in that position, which is going to keep you safe. Within the landing continuum, we have the precision jump, we have the bounce back, the half cat, the cat hang, and the cat abort. With that landing continuum, I'm able to approach a jump knowing that I have these things to fall back on so I can be confident. I can approach it in an aggressive fashion. If you hesitate, you risk not doing it correctly. Even with a jump that I know that I probably can't do a precision landing on, I still approach it aggressively in a way trying to do that precision landing, because if I shoot for the top within that landing continuum and I don't hit that, I have option 2, 3, 4, or 5. If I know I can't do something and I shoot for option 5, I don't have any option below that to keep me safe. As I approach a jump, 1, I want to make sure that I know how far I can jump and I can leave myself a few options within that landing continuum, but also aggressively approaching the jump without hesitation so that I know I'm going to keep myself safe. The first landing within that landing continuum is a precision landing. Landing precisely on the edge, sticking it. When I'm doing that precision landing, I'm keeping my feet together, landing both at the same time, having only to spot one landing, and again, landing at the same time, avoiding that slipping out or that ankle compression. With landing on the edge, not only is it more skillful, but it's gonna keep us safe and protect our joints. If I land on top, I risk the chance of slipping out, but also my ankle here is locked. It's a closed joint. I'm not able to bend it, so all of that landing force comes into my knee. If I land on the edge, again, not only is this keeping me from slipping out, but I'm able to bend in my ankle, which means I can start to absorb in the ankle, then the knee, then the hip, which is gonna protect my joints. Landing on that edge is also going to assist me in sticking my landing. When I'm going to stick my landing, my feet are in front of me, my body is behind me, so that by the time I absorb and bend and slow my momentum down, I'm over top. If I'm landing on top with my body behind me, again, that's risking that slipping out. If I'm not landing with my feet out in front of me, and I'm landing more over top of my feet, by the time I absorb in and slow my momentum, I'm over top, which means it's gonna be harder to stick and I could possibly fall forward. Not only is landing precisely on the edge safer, but it's more skillful. With that precision jump, I have to jump precisely. Even though I can jump further than this, I have to control how much power I'm giving the jump. 2 feet together, jumping, landing on that edge, and sticking it. Doesn't do me any good to give it too much power. Jump, land, step forward, fall off. From there, we want to move into the bounce back. Within that bounce back, it's exactly how it sounds. You're bouncing back off of the obstacle. Again, as long as we're keeping our feet together, getting both feet on the obstacle at the same time, we're gonna remain safe. When I utilize the bounce back is when I don't quite give it enough power to where I can stick on the obstacle and I start to fall back. So I'm gonna quickly bounce back off the obstacle, get my feet back underneath me, still facing the obstacle that I was trying to land on, and a nice good landing on the ground. Again, still facing the obstacle. I don't wanna get in the habit of turning and jumping off the obstacle. As we start to get on things that are a little bit higher, as I do my bounce back, I'm now falling a lot further to the ground. That's where it's even more important that with my bounce back, I'm still going into that good landing, feet together, facing the obstacle. Utilizing my hands as well. When I utilize my hands, it's almost like a backwards ground Kong, but I also have more time now to go into that half cat. As I bounce back, if I'm comfortable putting my arms on, I can start to, as long as I'm high enough, go into that half cat position. Half cat is gonna look like this. With that half cat, again, making sure that both my feet land at the same time. I'm now taking the ground and I'm putting it here. So I'm still landing with my feet first, absorbing in and then putting my hands on. Just like we do with that tuck jump quiet landing scoop to table. I go feet and then hands. I don't go feet and hands at the same time or even hands then feet. We don't want to jump and land on our hands. Situation like this where it's not big, it's not gonna be too hard on my arms and wrists. When I start to get bigger, I wouldn't jump down from a 7-foot obstacle and land on my hands. I'm gonna break my bones. Legs can absorb so much more. We wanna always get in the habit of getting our feet on the obstacle first, whether it's precision, bounce back, half cat, or eventually into that cat hang and cat abort. With that half cat, with that landing continuum, again, I'm approaching something aggressively, not hesitating. So even though I know it's probably gonna be hard for me to jump from the ground and do a precision landing on this, in my head, that's still how I'm treating it. I'm approaching it so that I try to go for that top piece of the landing continuum so I have those other options. If I just go from here and just go into a cat hang, I don't have any other option. So as I approach this, I try to land in that precision. And then if I don't do that, I fall back on those other things. As long as I know that I can do a half cat, then I know that I will be safe. As long as I know that I can do a cat hang, then I know I'll be safe. But I always go for the landing continuum option that's before that. As I approach a jump, if I know that I have that half cat and I know that I'm safe with it, but in the back of my head, I know I didn't quite go 100%. I know that if I do go 100%, because I was able to get that half cat without going 100%, that I'm for sure gonna be safe because I have that half cat. So I might as well now go 100%, try to get that precision, because I know if I miss the precision, I'm safe with the half cat. I've already done that. This is a way you can utilize the landing continuum to progress a jump. Start with something you know you can do that's relatively simple, and then start to challenge yourself, knowing that if you don't quite get that challenge, you can fall back on those other options. As we get into that half cat, cat hang, and cat abort, it's really important that we're also able to use our hands to keep ourselves safe. Pulling back to that ground Kong, getting comfortable doing hands, feet, hands, feet, feet, hands, feet, hands. Also want to kind of incorporate a backwards ground Kong. As I'm bouncing back off of the obstacle, I'm moving backwards. So the more comfortable I can be with that backwards ground Kong, the easier, the more familiar that's gonna be. With that backwards ground Kong, replacing my feet with my hands, jumping my feet back. Same idea of hands, feet, hands, feet. You can then start to practice that on an angled wall. Makes it feel a little safer. So I'm gonna go feet, hands, feet. I'm gonna land with my feet on the obstacle just like I would jumping to a wall. Push, bounce back to my hands, push to my feet on the ground. So I'm gonna land on the obstacle just like I would if I'm landing on the wall, bounce back to my hands, push to my feet on the ground. It's not hands and feet, hands and feet. So as I start to incorporate that with my bounce back at height, again, utilizing my hands to slowly lower myself to the ground, but also keep myself from possibly falling forward, hitting the obstacle with my face. As I start to go to height, as long as I know that I can jump and get my feet somewhere on that wall, I can utilize that landing continuum. Again, in my head, I'm being aggressive and I'm treating it like I'm trying to jump and land in that precision landing. So I'm not hesitating. I'm going all out. As long as I know I can get 2 feet somewhere on that wall, I know I can be safe. If I don't get quite high enough, I can bounce back, nice and safe on the way down. With that half cat, I'm just barely missing being on top. If this is the edge, I'm just barely missing so that I can still get my hands over top the obstacle in a way that's safe and easy on my wrists and elbows. So just barely missing that top, scooping feet to hands into that half cat. Feet always landing first. If I'm not getting my feet high enough that when I scoop to my hands, I'm in a good position to keep my elbows and wrists safe, I'm too low, I'm possibly chicken winging, really putting a lot of force into my upper arm joints, shoulder and elbow, I want to go ahead and go into the cat hang. Again, feet on first, adding a little bit of that bounce back to go into a cat hang. I was trying to land on top. I landed really high. I bounced back and went into that cat hang. You can also, if this was further, if I know I can get far enough to either do a half cat or at least a cat hang, I might jump and not have to necessarily utilize the bounce back, but jump right into that cat hang. 2 feet to 2 feet, landing just like I would on the ground with my feet first on the wall, going into that cat hang. Sometimes if my feet land too high within that cat hang, I need to bounce them back off, drop them a little bit lower so that they're not too high as I peel out within my hands, putting pressure within that negative grip. The closer a jump is, the harder it's gonna be to distinguish between your feet and your hands and when they land. The closer the jump is, they're gonna be landing closer to the same time. Not as big of a deal on a closer jump because you're in more control. The bigger the jump gets, the more important that the feet are really landing first. Plus, as you have more time, you can get your feet out in front of you, really look to treat it like you're landing on the ground, landing on that wall, absorbing in before you get to your hands. From there, I can use the cat abort. Using that cat hang, hands and feet on the wall, if I don't quite make it far enough to where I can grab the top, I can still put my hands on the wall and almost use the wall to help glide and slide and guide me down. As we go into our cat leap, we want to make sure that we have a good cat hang. With that cat hang, my arms are going to be straight, feet are going to be together just like I'm landing on the wall. They're going to be about the same level as my butt. I don't want to go too high because it'll cause me to peel out with my hands because it gets into that negative grip. And I don't want to go too low because then my feet will slide and I'll smash into the wall. As I go into my cat leap, again, landing with those feet together, absorbing in, grabbing with my arms, and then lowering in. Sometimes my feet will have to hit and do a little bounce back and slide down as I lower myself, keeping them from being too high, putting pressure on the hands and slipping out from that negative grip. Transferring that feet, hands, feet to the wall, a little bit straighter wall, landing with my feet first, bouncing back, getting to my hands, pushing back to my feet, controlling the obstacle with my feet and with my hands.